Thank you. All right, I'm going to call the public hearing for the proposed school modernization appropriation meeting to order. It is August 24th, 2026, 6:30 in the council chambers. Roll call, please.
Councilor Allegro.
Here.
Mayor Cicala.
Here.
Councilor Corsati.
Here.
Councilor Hall.
Here.
Councilor Mangini.
Here.
Councilor Matthews.
Here.
Councilor Pisner.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Santinella. Councilor Thomas.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
And Councilor Zanoni.
Here.
11 members are present, none are absent.
Thank you. The following notice of public hearing was published in the Journal-Enquirer on Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, Town of Enfield legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Town of Enfield shall hold a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall Council Chambers at 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, Monday, August 24th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. to allow public comment on the proposed appropriation of $511 million for the new construction of Hazardville Memorial Elementary School, Prudence Crandall Elementary School, Parkman Elementary School, and Barnard Elementary School, and for the conversion of Eli Whitney Elementary School into Eagle Academy Therapeutic Day School, and to authorize the issuance of bonds or notes of the town in the amount not to exceed $89 million, with the balance funded by grants and other funds available. Dated this 10th day of August, 2026, by Sheila Bailey, Town Clerk. It's just the public notice, yeah. All right, I'm going to go over the ground rules for the public hearing. There is a sign-up sheet. If you haven't signed up, please do so. Speakers will be called in the order of the sign-up sheet. The chair may permit a presentation by administration prior to calling on the public. Only Enfield residents or Enfield taxpayers may address the council. Speakers shall please limit their comments to items on the notice of the public hearing. All speakers will limit their remarks to 3 minutes, except the persons who are providing the council with a group authorized position, and they can speak for up to 5 minutes. Speakers may not yield their time to others, and the council may, by majority vote, allow speakers who have already spoken an additional 3 minutes to speak. So with that, we can start the public hearing. I do have the first sign-up sheet. And again, if you would like to sign up, feel free. There are other sign-up sheets over on that counter. So the first one, Peter Janitis, come on up, sir.
I'll never finish in 3 minutes. My name is Peter Janitis, 3 Farmstead Circle, Enfield, Connecticut. I've lived in this town for 50 years, taught school here 38 years, spent 7+ years on the Enfield Board of Education, and I've put 3 kids through the Enfield school system. They're all doing very well. In fact, one's a high school teacher. I've observed and formed many opinions about the growth and changes that have taken place over the years here in Enfield. I've witnessed town councils and boards that have worked together for the betterment of the community. I admire and am very thankful for some of the leadership of people like Mary Lou Strom, Scott Copen, Roxy Burke, Pat Stroine, Chris Bromson, and many others. As for tonight's topic, I remember when we had the Enfield Square, 3 large anchor stores, restaurants, movie theaters, kiosks, all kinds of stores in there, and holiday events. It was a beautiful complex. Look at it now. We had a Hinton Enfield High School running on double sessions. We needed another high school. We built Fermi. Which school closed first and why? We had JFK Junior High School with classes being taught in trailers. We needed another junior high school. We built the Big K. Which school closed first? The maintenance of the schools was deplorable. During my last year on the Board of Ed, Phil Kober, the superintendent of schools, and myself were given a nice tour of the building, and the maintenance of the building was awful. There were dividers in the urinals that were all ripped down, and they kept being torn down, and during classes, certain bathrooms could only be used. JFK has multiple problems also. Neither school will be able to accommodate, Fermi or Enfield High School, a large influx of new families that may come into this town. When Enfield High School and JFK were given a large facelift, the state gave the town approximately a 70% reimbursement to build as new. Enfield High School and JFK were never closed during the remodeling of those buildings. I cannot see why we need to completely demolish 4 elementary buildings and build 4 brand-new buildings. Aside, redo them, build new, and then make sure the schools are properly maintained. You're not going to improve education with 4 new schools. You're just going to make it look prettier. During the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, this town had a beautiful, great teaching staff and an administrative staff. We were allowed a lot of creative freedom in our classrooms, and we're not burdened by programs like No Child Left Behind, The Race to the Top, Teaching to Test, so on and so forth. And the state has passed all kinds of mandates on schools all across the state, and they're unfunded mandates, which is driving prices up exorbitantly on towns in Connecticut. Special ed classes are exorbitant. Teaching classes with reading.
Mr. Janitis, your 3 minutes is
Can I
up.
just finish that last paragraph?
Well, if I do it for you, I have to do it for everybody. I'm sorry.
I never said
And
that
if-
in class. I even had you coming up, Bob.
Thank you. Maureen Griffin.
Maureen Griffin, 98 Abbey Road. The schools, as they are now, are in need of a great deal of work. The question is, do we just continue to Band-Aid them, or do we do a one-time rebuild? When you look at the dollar amounts of it, the better return is going with the program that is being put forth on the referendum. You get money back from the state. Yes, we do pay the taxes to the state as well, but the percentage that is coming out of Enfield that would be towards that is much less than if we had to take on the expense of repairs to every building. I've toured the buildings, and I hope that there will be opportunities for people to tour over the next couple of months, because then they can see just how decayed the buildings truly are. The cost to maintain is far beyond what the cost to the town will be to do what is in this referendum. The total dollar amount, if there's no extra complications in just repairs, it looks similar. But the amount that we, as the taxpayers only in Enfield, have to pay is vastly different. Going with the referendum is the most fiscally sound idea. And I say this as somebody who has, our youngest is a junior going into their junior year. We have 2 in college. My husband's retired. I hate taxes, but they're a reality. You have to pay them. And Enfield's housing stock is very much considered, larger percentage of it is starter homes. Who wants a starter home? Young families. What is young families looking at? The schools, especially elementary. We have to have that if we want to maintain our home values. And if you want to sell your house, especially if you have a smaller house, it's gotta be schools that are good, schools that are maintained and showing a town that is invested in the kids. So you need to put it on the ballot, and I hope people vote for it. And to the school district, have open houses so people can come in and see how overcrowded. Education's not like it was when we were kids. They need the space. They're climbing over each other to do what they need to do. It needs to be done. And please get a reliable, long-term maintenance plan for all town buildings. Put it on the website so we can hold you to it. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe it's Christopher, is it Carpentio or Carpento?
I've decided to pass, yield my time. Just-
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, Danielle Gerard.
Hello, good evening. Danielle Gerard, Edgewood Drive. I'm going to keep this pretty simple tonight. I support the school modernization plan. I support it because I've been in these schools. I've seen the condition of some of our buildings, and I don't think we can continue kicking this can down the road and expecting our kids, teachers, and staff to simply deal with it. Our schools need to be addressed. Now, I understand what it means to be an elected official. I understand the commitment that comes with serving on committees, subcommittees, attending meetings, reviewing information, and making decisions that affect our entire town. So I think it's fair to ask, if this modernization plan is as important as we've been told it is, why haven't we had more town council representation and involvement throughout this process? I'm not asking that to point fingers. I'm asking because we have a responsibility to understand what we're voting on and make sure our residents have accurate information. And I think consistency matters. For months, I've listened to many of you and countless others talk about why this plan was important. At community conversation number 3, Marie specifically said, our elementary schools need to be redone. She also said she was frugal and wanted a big bang for her buck, and that was this plan and what they had given us. She said she hoped it would pass. She called it a win for our town, and she said, I want our kids to be in a safe and secure building. I agree. And I have to ask, what changed? If this was the plan that gave us the biggest bang for our buck, why are we now talking about possibly changing course here? And let's be honest about something else. If you vote no, the problem doesn't disappear. These schools still need work. The roofs still need work. The buildings still age. Repairs and improvements will still have to be paid for. So the question becomes, do we want to keep paying out of our pockets piece by piece, year after year, or do we take advantage of the state reimbursement available to help offset that cost and reduce the burden of our taxpayers? I have no problem asking hard questions. We should understand that cost, the tax impact, the timeline, and exactly what we're getting. We also need to stop allowing misinformation and exaggeration to drive this conversation. Our residents deserve the facts so they can make an informative decision. I was born and raised in Enfield. I care deeply about this town. I want our kids to have schools they can be proud of, and I want our taxpayers to know we're making a responsible investment. Will this cost money? Yes. But saying no doesn't make the cost disappear. The schools still need to be addressed. The only question is how we choose to address them and how much of that burden we are willing to carry ourselves.
Danielle, time's up.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. George Young, did you make it? You made it back? All right, come on up, sir.
George Young, 8 Holly Lane. I only have 3 minutes, and there are about 89 million reasons you and I should vote no for the present bond referendum, but many will not count. One look at this council, and you will see and hear how pro-education they are, and that they have forgotten about the taxpayers and especially the seniors in this town. Many of us are not against spending for education, but there is an affordability factor that comes into play. The building committee group has done a wonderful job, and remember, this was their assigned task. In case you missed it, I will give you some information I've extracted from the town's June 30th financial report. We're being asked to add $89 million of general obligation debt to our existing bonded and equipment debt, which was $118.4 million. The town's new primary debt would become $207.4 million. I recall when the deputy mayor and state representative John Santinella was very adamant about how high our debt was and the interest cost that went along with it in the fiscal year 2024 report, when there was a comparison for the prior 10 years of the debt service when we spent $11 million for principal and $4.5 million for interest in the analysis of the fund balance. In fiscal 25, it did drop to $10 million in debt service and $4 million in interest, but it must keep dropping. Has common sense been replaced by the quest for votes? Think back to 2016 when our primary debt was $63.6 million and represented 4.72% of our Enfield's median household income. As of June 30th, 2025, the above debt ballooned to $118.4 million, and the debt became 6.14% of that income. Enfield's median household income in 2016 was $68,000 and jumped to $90,000 in 2025. The per capita income was $30,000 in 2016 and increased to $47,000 in 2025. I doubt many seniors have kept up at that same ratio, and most are not better off today than they were 9 years ago. When one senior spouse passed away, the per capita income and the total household income dropped significantly, but the real estate taxes do not go down proportionately. In 2016, we had a population of 45,000 residents, whereas in 2025, there were 41,000 residents, according to the U.S. Department of Commerce. We still maintain 5,000 students for the school enrollment throughout the period, according to the school's administration. How do we do that? Let's ask where the students came from. Are they from out of town? How many are single-family homes in our town? And how many are from rental properties? The tax burden in recent years has shifted from businesses to single-family home owners with no end in sight. The town council is pushing for more affordable housing, especially multi-rental units. We have enough of them already, and we need to increase our industrial base. Last year's calculation of the mill rate included a reduction in our net taxable value of nearly $22 million for 2 solar entities in town. In spite of everything I have said, a cost to the taxpayers of $89 million versus this huge $511 million project, or about 18%, is the right choice to go forward with all this.
Mr. Young,
It is also
your time's up.
one last paragraph. It is also time to give seniors a break and maybe freeze our taxes or increase our exemptions up to around $20,000.
Right.
The council will drive many seniors out of town.
Thanks, George.
Thanks.
Gary Young, you're up next.
Good evening, Gary Young, 320 Abbey Road. The first thing I want to point out very specifically is the new schools do not impact the current rating of our Enfield public schools in the state. We are currently ranked in the low 50%. Access to the homeowner property tax impact cannot be found at the moment. I'm going to go right to the message I deliver consistently with our websites. We need very clear information, and we need, as homeowners, to understand what is the actual impact of this to our property tax in a year. I can tell you in the 19 years, I have seen my property tax double. My home value has not doubled. But I'm looking at an Enfield public school system that has consistently dropped in their ranking across the state. So again, new buildings do not change that ranking. Enrollment trends are not easily found. Additional information in the supporting slides is next to impossible to find. I have both decks here. I printed them out. The decks are put together very well, but there's a lot of information that sits behind those decks, so who's ever building them, I would highly recommend pull out the most important. The why. Why would I vote for it or against it? Slide 15 in the deck needs to be addressed. That goes back to what is the financial impact that I will see as a homeowner. I am a homeowner right now that no longer has children in the school system. However, I have also stated very specifically in a previous meeting that was held at another school system that I want to see the property value continue to go in the right direction. The school system is by far one of the first things that any growing family looks at. So I want to make sure at least I understand what is the impact and how is it going to help me. The other thing I want to point out very quickly, and it's already been noted a few times, but I think it's important that this gets brought to the top of wherever this information gets put for the public. $95 million for renovations. That's a taxpayer impact versus $89 million for new school systems. So again, I'm asking all the stuff that's out there, we need to start weeding out the information that's most impactful to the property taxpayers. My concerns, to wrap up here, we recently spent we, as in the town and taxpayers, spent a ton of money on a new field at the annex. The annex is a building that we have yet to see any plan for. And there were town council members that actually questioned, should we spend that money on that field at this point in time? And one particular council member mentioned or questioned, we have more fields than any other town in the surrounding areas. Why spend the money at the moment? And it was done anyways. We need to understand what's the continued maintenance plans for the existing buildings. This is like Monopoly. We own a ton of buildings and nobody knows what the maintenance plans are. I think that needs to be done, and it was brought up earlier. I will wrap up with this. An inventory of the buildings that the town owns needs to have an identified usage plan. What are we doing with these buildings, and why are we doing it? And if we don't need the building, we need to get rid of it. That's as simple as it gets. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. John Malinowski.
John Malinowski, 1302 Bigelow Commons. Good evening. I'm asking everyone to vote yes on the referendum to build new schools in Enfield. This is not simply a vote about buildings. It is a vote about the future of our children, our town, and the kind of community we want Enfield to be 10, 20, and 30 years from now. For years, Enfield has talked about the condition of our schools. We have studied the problems, discussed alternatives, delayed decisions, and tried to make the existing buildings work. But the reality of that, doing nothing, has left some of our elementary schools in dire straits. We have essentially been operating under a Plan B for a very, very long time, patching, repairing, making do, and hoping we can get a few more years out of buildings that were never intended to serve another generation of students under today's educational standards. At some point, Plan B stops being a temporary solution and becomes the status quo. I believe we have reached that point. The question before us is not whether building new schools is expensive. Of course it is. A project of this size requires a significant investment, and taxpayers have every right to expect that investment to be carefully planned and responsibly managed. But since this is a new construction project, an overwhelming majority of the total cost will be reimbursed by the state of Connecticut. We also have to ask the other question. What is the cost of continuing to do nothing? Good schools are one of the most important economic assets a community can have. When families are deciding where to live, schools are a major consideration, even for people who don't currently have children in those schools. Strong schools help maintain property values, make a community more attractive to prospective homeowners, and give businesses another reason to locate and invest here. If Enfield wants to attract new families and new residents, we need to offer them a community they want to be part of. That means good neighborhoods, good services, responsible government, and modern, quality schools. And there is another important point. We should not think of this referendum simply as spending money on today's children. We are investing in Enfield's future. The children who walk into these schools will eventually become workers,
Mr.
homeowners, business owners, taxpayers, and
Mr.
community
Malinowski.
leaders. The quality of the education environment we provide them matters.
Your time is up, sir. I'm sorry.
I urge everyone to vote yes on the referendum.
Thank you. Tricia Wright.
Hello, Tricia Wright, 66 Oakwood Street, trained town council speaker. As you can tell by my shirt, I would please like to have new schools in this town. I don't understand at the end of August why we are still having people that don't think that this is a good idea. We have run out of the road, to echo what everybody else has said. You cannot kick the can down anymore. If we Band-Aid the buildings, I don't even know if the repairs will hold. So we need to do this. This is something that we should be rallying around. Democrats, Republicans, independents, undeclared, the people who don't vote at all. This is about our town. There's a lot of weird things happening in Washington, which we can't do a whole lot about, but we can certainly fix this. So I please ask the residents who feel that it's their right to have confusing conversations with very intended people that are asking good questions, but they don't feel that this is a good idea. I'm echoing the people behind me. We need clear and concise information for people, not just online though. I'm going to be the non-technology person of the night. I don't know how we can do it, but I'm happy to help somebody write up a piece of paper with bullet points and we put them in the library or something. But if the good information gets put out, the naysayers can be silenced. And that is my request for clear and concise communication so that our residents who I know want to rally around this but are confused because they're being told different things and don't know who to believe. So that is my request tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Tyler Johnson?
Tyler Johnson, 40 Dale Road. I'm here in support of the project. I benefited from the Enfield school system. My son just went through, benefited from the Enfield school system, has now since graduated. Some people in this room taught me. So looking back on my travel through the school system, it does need some updating. The teachers need somewhere where they can do their things, but the community impact is where we could really go with this stuff. So think about all the jobs that could be created here for the Enfield residents and the people that are living in this town and making roots in this town to stay here, work here, to stay in a sustainable career in construction. And you guys could really use this and go forward with all that stuff. This is my first time being at this meeting and stuff, so thank you guys for having me. I am in support of the project. I hope it goes through. I hope everything goes well. And I hope we can get like a project labor agreement to get guys from our town involved in on that project for us. So that's all. Thanks, guys.
Amanda Pickett.
Good evening, Amanda Pickett, Guild Street. First, thank you all for being present here tonight. This is a really important conversation. I'm here tonight as a mom, an Enfield resident, taxpayer, and an advocate for public education. This morning, I had the privilege of being at convocation with our 875-ish educators and staff who show up every day for Enfield's children. It was a meaningful reminder that our schools are more than just buildings. They demonstrate what we value and what we're willing to invest in for our community's future. Our schools can't be ignored. Repairs and investment are necessary, and we currently have more than $330 million in identified maintenance and capital investment needs. The reality is it's not going away, and neither are the costs that are associated with it. The question before Enfield this November is not whether we're going to invest in our schools, but it's how we're going to do it. We can continue relying on those piecemeal solutions, those short-term fixes that cost more over time, receive less state reimbursement, and still leave us with the same underlying problems. Or we can make thoughtful, long-term investment that addresses the needs, creates the program space for our students, and ultimately provides a more cost-effective path for our taxpayers. What I appreciate about this plan is that it's not simply about fixing buildings. It creates program space for things our kids need, including preschool, a more unified elementary experience, and specifically designed program space. The team has also thought carefully about building reuse and maintenance plans. It gives us an opportunity to think differently and innovatively about how our schools can serve children and families while also ensuring that our buildings are maintained and kept for years to come. I've done my homework. I've looked at the facts, the costs, the reimbursement, and what it means for our students. And if you take the time to do the same, I believe that the choice is clear this November. It's yes. Ultimately, the message is simple. We need to address our schools. This is the most cost-effective solution. It creates space and opportunities for our kids, and it's what's best for Enfield. Vote yes this November.
Thank you. Randy Daigle.
Sorry. I'm new at this. Randy Daigle. I'm here as a resident this evening, and I live at 55 Cottage Road. One thing that I'm very disappointed in is the unfactual information that's being sent out there. At the beginning of this, it was supposed to be equal, bipartisan. It was thoroughly for the kids. Like the last 28 years I've been volunteering in every school in this town. I've been volunteering for free for the town of Enfield, and at once has it became political. This is the very first time that this has became political. The facts are there's 82% reimbursement, one of the highest in the state out there. Yes, it's a $500 million job, but that's what's being thrown out there. Not the fact that there's 82% reimbursement. It's only going to affect the mill rate at 0.027%. And that's not going to start for 6 years, 7, 8 years. It's going to start at 2029. In the meantime, if this passes, what we're trying to do is pass this to lock in the reimbursement rate. There's a 15% pre-K reimbursement rate right now that the state offers. It's called an incentive. In another 2 years, it's no longer going to be an incentive. It's going to be a mandate. So they're not going to offer that 15% to the public anymore. So we lost 15%. We were lucky enough to get a 5% housing bill. So there's 20% right there. If this does not pass, it's gone. The market value in these houses in Enfield at $250,000 is what the average is in the reports. And that, like I said, that's $47 a year that this will go up in 29. This started 6 years ago, the discussion to do these schools. It went nowhere. 4 years ago, it started. They hired an architect. They did some plans. It went nowhere. These schools are in critical condition that they're going to be closed. You can't open some windows in schools. The windows will literally fall out. The structure for the foundation on these have failed. We would love to renovate as new, but there's no place to put 180, 200 kids. These are children that are susceptible at this age group. This wasn't the high school. The high school, we moved them to one school, one part of it, and we renovated. We have to find a location. So we either have to build a school, which would be non-reimbursable at $3 million, move these kids into them, and what program are we designing this for? And then we're going to move them back, and then we have another vacant building. So the logic behind it was building a new building, tear down the existing, and then move the kids and do the fields and such. But I'm so disappointed that this is now a political argument between the R&Ds. And I'm really disappointed on the Republicans, and I'm a Republican, that they never talk about the facts of what the reimbursement rate is. They talk about $500 million. Yes, it is. It's $500 million. But it's not what the taxpayers are paying.
Your time is up.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Patrick Thibodeau.
Patrick Thibodeau, 20 Core Street. Enfield Street, 1953. Hazardville, 1954. Mark Twain in Southwood Acres, 1959. That was my first school. Nathan Hale, 61. Stowe, 63. Enfield High, 64. Kosciuszko, 64. Parkman, 64. Prudence Crandall, 66. Eli Whitney, 67. Barnard, 68. JFK, 69. Fermi, 71. That is 13 schools. From the mid-1950s to the early 1970s, there was hardly a year when this town didn't have a school under construction. I graduated from Enfield High in '72. My generated benefit enormously from this. For me to be here now and say we shouldn't approve this project would be a hypocrisy. The building committee did good work. It studied multiple paths, ran the numbers, and looked at the alternatives. This is the best result. I'm voting yes. Consider what town leaders did in the 1960s. They committed Enfield to school construction year after year, even as Bigelow was closing and before the mall or industrial park existed. But they also had an economic development strategy to help pay for those schools. We don't. The PZZ let Enfield Square be broken into separate parcels that the owner could sell individually. We got no redevelopment commitment in return. When Winsonia came, the town council offered generous incentives without performance conditions. We didn't protect against the risk that an existing Enfield retailer may relocate, moving assessed value from one part of the town to the other. If we're asking taxpayers to make an $89 million commitment for new schools, the town's obligation is to grow the tax base to support it. Our economic challenges, however, are fixable. To that end, I have two recommendations. First, hire outside consultant to negotiate any new mall agreement. We are outmatched. Second, give the Economic Development Commission a real role. Have it review commercially significant zoning applications and report economic benefits and risks to the PZZ. Where that commission messes up, it's because they don't have good information. 60 years ago, town leaders understood that building schools and building the tax base had to go together. Despite our economic challenges, the school building project is an investment that Enfield absolutely needs to make. The schools were built in the 50s and 60s have served us well, but after 6 or 7 decades, it's time to replace them. Enfield voters didn't find it easy to approve new schools back then either. There were controversies, there were battles, there were fights, but they were willing to invest in the future of this town. We have to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Courtney?
Joe Courtney, 125 Jackson Road. I just want to say I support this plan, and I think it's great for my youngest son and future children, and I also look forward to future job opportunities that will be created from building these schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Michael Ellis.
My name is Michael Ellis. I live on 34 Willstar Circle. My children actually go to Enfield schools. I am a carpenter, and I see what schools get replaced and how they're worked in and how they come up. To be honest with you, I see a lot of things in these schools that need to be replaced. It's all been encapsulated. It's all 30, 40 years old. These tiles are asbestos. Yeah, you have to have it abated. It costs a little more in most cases. But with our children, this is something you don't want them sitting on carpets and playing around in, or even mopping the floors or whatever the gymnasium is. I was actually in my son's school the other day, and I see these 9-inch tiles. Now, they're not abated, they're not taken care of, we're just walking over them. The finish wears off, and that tile still comes off on the floor. It may take a little time, but 30, 40 years from now, yeah, it's time. We need to have it all redone. And this is our children. That's about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Margaret Perry?
Margaret Perry, Washington Road. The one thing that I think that we're forgetting is we keep on saying maintaining, but we're forgetting the people that do the maintaining. we're having them try to fix things they can't get parts for. The frustration and the danger that we're putting these people in, they need to have the most updated and what they can fix. And all of that has to be replaced. It can't be maintained anymore. It needs to be modernized, and it needs to be fixed to keep our children safe and our employees safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael Ellis Jr.
Hello, my name is Michael Ellis Jr. I'm a Connecticut carpenter, and I was also a student at Enfield schools for a short time. My brother goes there, and I see the maintenance that needs to be done and whatnot, and being a resident, it would be great to have work in town, you know, especially if all these schools need to be done, that would be a lot of work. And we do half days every so often for heat and stuff like that, so I know we got to have things updated. And that's about all I got. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Chris Lang. I know I saw her.
Hello, yes. Chris Lang, 90 South Road. Haven't been here in a while. Hello. I'm glad to be here on this issue. I'm a yes for this. I haven't had kids in the school system, but I know people talking about everything from black mold and rust, now asbestos probably in the tiles. Come on. Enfield, get excited about the fact that these are old schools. I, too, went to most of these schools. I was raised here since 1952, and I graduated the high school and everything in between. I know them all. So if they were half decent then, what are they now? Besides, it's true. A lot of us don't hear all the dollar figures. We've got money that's coming to help us. Let's do the work. I don't want to see the kids scrambling in an old building anymore. I remember being in one, I think it was Higgins School, where we were close enough to the mill pond for the siren to go off at noon. And I remember when the windows were open, everything flew out the window because we were so surprised by the noise. That's the only fun thing about an old building. Everything else isn't. So I'm going to encourage everyone I know to pay attention to details. I do agree that we need more information of a very simple, readable kind. I think in the libraries is a good place to put it. And I second everybody else behind me. I've heard at least a half dozen points from half dozen people that I would have said had I more time. But it's yes. It's just yes. And if it's not yes, why not? Thank you.
Thank you. So there aren't any additional people signed up, and my lists are done. So if anybody, you want to raise your hand if you haven't spoke. All right, you are Chris, right? You were on there before? Come on up.
So I'm Christopher Karpenko, 167 Abbey Road. My wife Susan Sue is here also. You know, the reason I was third on the list, but I wanted to listen first to hear what everyone else had to say. And I think I have been convinced that a yes vote is the right thing to do, mainly because of the fellows behind me that talked about the financial aspects for the town. I don't have kids, so, you know, we are contributing to the town's tax base, the kids' base, just because of our taxes, and that's okay with me. Education is very important. About the 82%, I'm looking at you, Carol. I think we need to advertise that well. My fellow Republicans should do that. Obviously, I'm a Republican as well. I think it's important to broadcast the facts more than just the libraries. I heard libraries a few times. It's got to go elsewhere. Not everybody goes to the library. So I've been convinced to vote yes. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else for the first time? Okay. Tina and Dean. So I'll go to Tina and then Dean, and then we'll deal with second times after.
Tina LeBlanc, 22 David Street, just a regular average citizen these days. I just wanted to point out that these problems that we're talking about in our schools are not what ifs, they are they ours. We've had students at Enfield Street School, at Stowe Early Learning, have water coming through the ceiling, and now they had to be moved over to Enfield Street School. So Enfield Street School had to make room for them over there. We had to take those early learning classes out of the early learning gym here in Enfield and move them to another building, including busing. We have ceiling tiles that fall in the toilets. We have garbage bins in the hallways at Hazardville Memorial collecting water. We have water coming in the windows at the elementary schools. And when it comes to JFK and Enfield High, I've heard people say, well, there's been vandalism with doors and whatnot getting replaced in the bathroom and dividers. But one of the things that I learned over time in reading a study that was done in 2019, which should be redone in 2026, is for the amount of buildings that we have in this town, the conditions of the buildings, not just the school buildings, we are grossly understaffed by buildings and grounds. And that is part of the reason that we cannot keep up with maintenance plans. And that's something that we definitely have to look into. But I think that that isn't a reason to vote no. To me, it's a no-brainer. When we talk about what it's going to hit to the taxpayers, if Enfield does not pass this referendum, this money is going to go to another town in the state, and we're ultimately going to be paying for it. But what I want people to understand is that it's impacting the students now. Every day, it's impacting the teachers. So it's something that we have to think about. It's not something that is what if, it's something that is happening now. So my vote is always going to be yes on this, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dean.
Hi, I'm Dean Gauss. I live on Spring Street. I am a Board of Ed member, and I'm also on the committee a representative on the committee. And there are a couple of speakers that really we should pay attention to. Number one was Randy, and I don't remember the other gentleman's name, who was looking for more precise information. Randy is absolutely right. You have to pay attention to the real numbers. It's very important just because of the amount that we're saving by doing this, and the fact that we're going to have schools that in 2050 our kids are, not obviously not our kids, but kids are going to be going to that are 30 years old as opposed to 90 years old. And also another point that Randy made about building the schools next to the other schools. My son was in Enfield High School when it was being remodeled, and it was a nightmare. The kids ate the same thing every day for 2 years. I believe that plan is absolutely the best way to go. Build the school next to it, move the kids over, tear the old one down. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who did not sign up for the first time? Okay, so the rules do allow us to, by majority vote, allow those who have spoken the first time an additional 3 minutes. I do have 5 people at least that I marked that didn't finish, that I had to stop. So if I could get a motion to approve or
Speak
allow.
a second time.
Yes, what John said? And was that Aaron? So the motion was made to allow people to speak for an additional 3 minutes who have already spoken. That was seconded. Any discussion on that? All right, can we just do a hand vote on that, Sheila? All right, all in favor? Everyone's in favor. Thank you very much. That's 11. So I am going to go down the list on the people that I starred that we had to interrupt, and then we'll go back and I can read the names, and if you would like to speak a second time, you're welcome to, okay? So Peter Janitis, come on up. You have an additional 3 minutes.
Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the Democratic Town Committee for getting a nice turnout tonight. You did a good job. Republicans or people who are more conservative, shame on you. Also, after listening to everybody, no matter what happens here, whether we get the referendum passes or not, we're going to get better schools one way or the other. And if it's a matter of just a few dollars one way or the other, then go ahead and build the new schools. If we can get to build the new, then do it that way. Whatever really is the most cost effective. And when somebody says our taxes really aren't going to be that affected for about 6 years, our tax bill went up pretty good this year. I would like to see newcomers coming into town. Once again, the secondary schools will not be able to handle those new students coming in. Fermi. When I was on the board, I can't tell you how many times I tried to talk and say, turn Fermi into a trade school. That's what this town could really use. What's the oldest school in town? Even though it's not being used as a school anymore, but it's still a building. Alcorn. How many graduates that graduate from the Enfield public school system stay in Enfield? Most of our kids get the education, they leave, and they go someplace else. Reimbursement numbers, and they won't come into play for, 6 years, I just said that one. Replacement costs, AKA the maintenance. Big K. You know what got that place closed down? The vents. They weren't cleaned for over 6 or 7 years. JFK, the pool. If you taught in Blue House, you were constantly sick. Fermi, half of that building, a lot of teachers went out, and they were out for 6 months to a year. There was something going on there in that building, and I think we all know what it was. And to finish kind of on a sour note, it's not the building that's going to be teaching the kids. It's the teachers that teach the kids. Let teachers teach without all the BS coming from the federal and state governments. I know there's a lot we can't do about it, but I really would love to see us fight about it. And those, finally, the town council, those town councils and Board of Ed, who I mentioned some people who I really admire, they did a nice job. They really did. This town grew leaps and bounds. But I'll tell you, this Board of Education and this town council, in my opinion, is an embarrassment to local governance. You're
Peter, your time
spending
is up.
like drunken sailors.
Thank you, Peter.
Oh.
No.
And Bob had
thank you.
4 kids come through the system, too. I know that.
So the next person I had starred who was unable to finish was Danielle Gerard. Did she leave? Okay. George, did you want to come up and finish? You're good? Okay. And John Malinowski, I stopped you. You can come on up.
John Malinowski, 1302 Bigelow Commons. From listing, actually, I wanted to add a couple of things. New construction itself is an economic stimulus, as has been mentioned by some of the people behind me. Architects, engineers, construction managers, et cetera, and many other trades will benefit. And many of these workers will be local residents who can benefit from that work. Enfield-based businesses should have opportunities to also participate. So as this is going on, this is going to help the Enfield economy as well. The money doesn't simply disappear. Much of that investment flows to workers and businesses, et cetera. Doing nothing, as I said, also costs money. The money we're going to spend to fix the old buildings, it's just going to keep going on and on. And the last thing I want to say is state reimbursement is an opportunity that we certainly should not forget or let go of. So again, I urge everyone to vote yes on the referendum. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy.
Thank you again, Randy Daigle, 55 Cottage Road. One of the things I just also want to throw out there is that I know a lot of people were talking about, you know, what if this doesn't pass? What's Plan B? The first thing right off the bat, there was no Plan B. The building committee's charge was to do exactly what we did. We weren't asked for a Plan B. Secondly, Plan B would cost the taxpayers $95 million at less than 30% reimbursable. These schools should have been done and started 2 years ago. Like I said, these schools are in dire strait. We repair the roofs based on how many buckets are under the ceiling tiles, how many leaks they can see. We literally have Crandall, excuse me, the gymnasium's not a gymnasium. They have portable classrooms in there because the rooms that they do have allocated for children can't be used. Some of the heating systems doesn't work. A lot of those windows, you walk in there and there's not even a window you can look out. It's all plywood because if you open that window, that whole shear wall will fall. These buildings are no longer Plan B. There is no what if. If this fails, we're going to be losing accreditation in some of these schools because we can't occupy these schools with our children. You know, I'm pissed as everybody else. We should not be here. We are being forced to vote yes, but we have done, the building committee has done their damnedest to make this the most efficient way and less tax burden as possible. But this is what the town did. This is why we're here. This is nothing that is here by choice. Not one of us said, hey, let's think about doing this. Well, let's think about doing this. Should have been 7, 8, 9 years ago. We are here because there is no second chance. There is no Plan B. If this fails, it's going to be it's going to be detrimental to the taxpayers. Yes, this is a big nut to swallow, but the way that it gets getting done, it's throughout several to 10 years. This is not we vote November, you write a check for $500 million, and that's how it's being perceived. It's not. It's going to be several years. We're going to be doing 3 schools at a time. Then we have to go back to the state for reimbursement on 2 other schools. We're just about guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed, but that's a farce that people put in out there like, what if we don't get it? Okay, you know what? What if we don't get it? It moves down to 75%, but it doesn't eliminate it needs to be done. We're looking at a 10-year plan here. This is nothing that's going to happen today and tomorrow. November, it's going to take 2 more years to design these buildings. Then it's going to have to go out to bid. And we only pay on what we use. It's like a home equity loan. It's a line of credit. They're not giving us $500 million. They're giving us a line of credit. So the first 2 years, we use $9 million. That's what we're paying on. We're not paying on the big ticket. And then while we pay that down, the next year it's going to be less because now we pay down the first couple million.
Randy.
So anyways, I'm just saying, there is no Plan B. If this doesn't fail, God help Enfield.
All right, I'm going to go down the list, and you can just let me know if you wanted to speak again. Maureen Griffin?
Maureen Griffin, still at 98 Abbey Road. Thank you very much, Randy, for clarifying that it's not 89 million, here you go, start paying it. And that's what is being presented on all the forums and stuff like that. And it's very disingenuous. And if you can't make the argument on the facts, then you don't have an argument. The simple fact is that the schools are falling apart. The most economical plan is the one that is presented in the referendum. And it also provides, once it's all done and they've torn down all the old and redone all the surrounding areas, there's a whole lot of nice property around those schools that will be available for people to use outside of school hours. It's a plus, it's a win for the town. I hope people vote for it.
Oh, I'm sorry. My mic isn't even on. Sorry. I'm new at this too.
All right, there's just a couple of things that I want to make sure are clear. This is not a political decision, and it should really not be a political decision. It's a decision about cost effectiveness, our responsibilities as taxpayers, and our priorities as a community. Our schools need investment, and we have to be thoughtful about how we do that. I also want to make it clear and thank the bipartisan members of our Board of Education who are here tonight, who have taken the time to learn about this proposal, engage in the process, ask hard questions, and support what they believe is the best path forward for our students in our community. And respectfully, I want to respond to something that was just said. The Board of Education is working really hard to stay focused on education, not politics, and what's best for our students, our staff, and the future of Enfield Public Schools. I take that responsibility to heart. We may not always agree. We ask absolutely difficult questions, but we take our responsibility very seriously. Tonight, I ask what's best, what's most responsible, and how do we support our kids? It's a vote yes this November.
Thank you. Patrick Thibodeau, you good? Joe. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify something. When I said, we're outmatched, that wasn't, don't take that personally. We're outmatched as a town. Your job isn't to negotiate deals that come once every couple generations. If you get another mall developer walking in here, you need to hire a professional consultant. You can probably pay for it out of the TIF to guide you through that process. That would be the best thing you do. Your goal is to extract maximum value, not to save costs on a consultant. You really have to get maximum value. And I think that's the way to do it. Other towns do it that way. I think we need to, because this is not like approving some contract in Public Works or something. It's radically different. And in a buyer-seller relationship, the seller knows, and the developers are nothing but sellers. They know vastly more than you do. The second point I want to make is regarding the Economic Development Commission. I don't think you understand. I don't think anybody in this town really understands the extent of the problem that we're having right now. I'll use the car wash on Phoenix and Hazard as an example. The logic on that decision was there's a gas station there and there's an auto parts store. Might as well have a car wash there. In their discussion, they didn't consider how this would affect the national brands that have located in that area and have made tremendous investments in our town. Would it help them, hurt them, or be neutral? I tend to think it hurts.
Patrick,
I think we're better off with
Patrick,
something else.
Can you please narrow your comments to just the referendum?
Well, okay. Well, all this is paying to
Thank
the
you.
referendum, because if we don't get the economic development right, if we don't have a functioning economic development system, you aren't going to be able to offset the tax revenue. You just aren't. And so you need to look at how you improve the Planning and Zoning Commission, and you can do that by creating a bridge from the Town Council to the Economic Development Commission, which can communicate what you want to the Zoning Board.
Thank you. Joe Courtney, is he still here? All set? Michael Ellis? Good. Margaret Perry? Michael Ellis Jr. Chris Lang? You're good? Tina LeBlanc? And then Dean Gauss. Everybody's good? All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate your input. I will declare the public hearing closed at 7:36. Do you? If people don't mind maybe leaving quietly so we can roll right into our next meeting. Starting the special meeting, it is August 24th, 2026 at 7:37 p.m. in the Town Council chambers. And to start the special meeting, I'd like roll call, please.
Counselor Allegro.
Here.
Mayor Sakala.
Here.
Counselor Crisati.
Here.
Counselor Hall.
Here.
Counselor Mangini. She stepped out, sorry. Counselor Matthews.
Here.
Counselor Pisner.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
Here.
Counselor Thomas.
Here.
Counselor Ungary.
Here.
And Counselor Zanoni.
Here.
11 members are present, none are absent.
Thank you. Item 2, new business. A is the consent agenda. There are 5 items on the consent agenda. Number 1 is the resolution to approve the revised self-insurance funding policy as amended. The second one is the resolution referring a proposed acquisition of 30 Long Hollow Road to planning and zoning. Number 3 is a resolution setting a public hearing for the adoption of the school bus stop arm and enforcement ordinance. Number 4 is the resolution authorizing the town manager or the designee to submit a continuation funding for the fiscal year 27 family resource grant for the total of $122,650. And the 5th one is a resolution authorizing the town manager, acting town manager, or designee to sign documents related to the disbursements of funds from the Antonio Ganuccio Trust to the town of Enfield. Councilor Ungar.
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to remove number 1, 2, and 5 from consent agenda.
Second. I second.
Okay. I know that you don't need a second to remove items off the consent agenda, so that was 1, 2, and 5. So items 3 and 4 remain on the consent agenda. And can I get a hand vote? Do I have to get a motion to approve the consent? Yes. Can I get a motion to approve the remaining items on the consent agenda, which are 3 and 4?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Items 3 and 4 on the consent agenda.
And a second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor of items 3 and 4 on the consent agenda? That is 10 in favor, 1 absent, and none against. All right. New business, item B and C. This is B is the resolution to appropriate $511 million for the new construction of Hazardville Memorial, Prudence Crandall, Parkman, Barnard, and conversion of Eli Whitney, and authorize the issuance of bonds or notes in the total amount not to exceed $89 million. And C is the same resolution to submit referendum and appropriate bonding resolution for the expansion and the renovation of Hazardville Memorial, Prudence Crandall, Parkman Elementary, Barnard School, conversion of Eli Whitney into the Eagle Academy, and to authorize the issuance of the bonds not to exceed $89 million, with the balance funded by grants or other funds. I am going to move this over to Matt first.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the last time.
Oh.
Yeah, you never know.
I'm sad.
So, as council's aware, we're going to be asking that you table both of these items tonight. The reason that we're asking for the tabling is I guess the best way to look at it is out of an abundance of caution to make sure that when we get to important time frames, like the referendum, like when We're going to start going into debt for these projects that we don't run into a possibility that there may be an FOI dispute at that point. And this goes down to the way that the agendas were posted on Friday. Let me go back first. We feel that we've done everything we're supposed to do to give notice about the public hearing. You know, we did exactly what we normally do. It goes in the newspaper after council says we want to do a public hearing. We send out a text message to everyone saying, hey, on this date there's going to be a public hearing. There's a link, you click on it, it goes to what the public hearing's about. You know, where we normally post things in the clerk's office or at the library, wherever we do that, we've done that. However, as it came to the agenda on Friday that set for this meeting, there was a issue with one of the two agendas that you would see if you go to our website. And so if you get notice from the town that a new agenda has been posted, you'll have a link. You click on the link, it's going to go to a landing page that's on our website that you're going to see, on the left-hand side, you'll see agenda, and you'll see agenda packet. What comes up is the agenda, which is a standalone PDF that is a static document that shows what the agenda is. The other link is an agenda packet, where if you go to that, it looks identical, except you'll see links because the material that supports those items are next. In the system, when you're setting those, we always work from the agenda packet in our office. And with that, you'll go through, we'll make sure everything is perfect and ready to go out. The other one is kind of a secondary thought. You know, all we have to do is make sure that that matches the first one. Well, in this particular case, we didn't make sure that the first one that everyone's going to see when they click on that link matched the one that we had been working on. That was brought to our attention. We, of course, did some due diligence to look at it. When I said that we've done everything that we're supposed to do, that's because we looked and we made sure those things they said we did, we did. And so we talked to the city, or the town attorney, excuse me, and that led to a discussion with our bond counsel, with Shipman Gooden, Matt Ritter, who is on the team's meeting with us. And his recommendation was, if we can still do everything we need to do in the time frame that we have to do it, we should do that, because then we are guaranteed that whatever we do will not be challengeable somewhere down the road. We looked, we knew that council has to act on this by September 4th. We talked, we made sure that we could have a meeting if we could, and we feel we can. And what that's going to require now is everyone to come back that can come back tomorrow, and at a special meeting, which has already been posted and you're aware of, act to reset the public hearing. We will, as soon as you pass that, get it in the newspaper, and that will allow the town to have a second public hearing on September 2nd. And following that meeting, there'll be another special meeting similar to tonight, but hopefully with 2 items you'll be able to vote on. So again, it's probably more than what we need to do, but when we're talking about something as important as this, and with a lot of negative possibilities if we don't do it right, you know, the recommendation is that we do what I just said that we need to do. And so because of that, these 2 items we had asked that you would table until September 2nd at that meeting.
Thank you.
Motion to table item B and C.
Second. All right. Motion was made and seconded to table. Do I need to do we have to vote on tabling, or is it just done? Okay. Hand vote or roll call? Hand vote? All right. All in favor of tabling items B and C? I believe that is 11 in favor, none against. All right, D, resolution to authorize reduction in property maintenance fines at 122 Windsor Street and withdraw foreclosure. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize the reduction of property maintenance fines associated with the property maintenance lien recorded September 24th, 2021 at volume 2814, page 629 for the property at 122 Windsor Street to $1,000. Be it further resolved that the reduced fines must be paid at closing, which must take place on or before October 1, 2026. Be it further resolved that if the reduced fines are paid at closing, the property maintenance lien will be released and the foreclosure action authorized on February 6, 2025 will not be pursued. Date prepared 8/6/2026 by the Office of Economic and Community Development.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. I know this came out of Blight. Any comments or questions? Discussion? All right, sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
And Counselor Zanoni.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Item 2E, resolution to submit to the electors the proposed revisions to the Enfield Town Charter for approval at referendum. Be it resolved that in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, Section 7-191, that the revisions to the Enfield Town Charter, as proposed by the Charter Revision Commission and approved by the Enfield Town Council at their special meeting of June 23rd, 2026, be submitted to the electors for approval at a referendum in conjunction with the regular state election on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2026. And be it further resolved that the proposed revisions to the charter are approved by referendum vote at said election. The effective date of the revised charter shall be December 4th, 2026. And be it further resolved that in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, Section 7-191F, that the council hereby submits the following wording for the ballot in the form of one question. Quote, shall the Enfield Town Charter be revised as proposed by the Charter Revision Commission and as approved by the Enfield Town Council by resolution number 7549 at its special meeting of June 23rd, 2026, end quote. Date prepared 8/11/2026 by Sheila Bailey, Town Clerk.
So moved.
And a second.
God, that entire time my mic was off and nobody said anything.
We can hear you.
I'm so
I can
sorry.
hear you right clear.
Great, good thing I talk loud, I guess. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on that? No, sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
Against.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
Against.
And Counselor Zanoni.
4.
8 in favor, 3 against.
Item 2F, resolution authorizing the preparation and printing of explanatory text of the proposed charter revision for the electors. Be it resolved that in order to allow the electors of the town of Enfield to be better informed that the proposed revisions of the Enfield Town Charter that will be voted on at November 3rd, at the November 3rd, 2026 state election and pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes Section 9-369B subsection A, the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize the preparation and printing of concise explanatory text to be prepared by the town clerk, subject to the approval of the town attorney for public distribution. Date prepared 8/11/2026 by Sheila Bailey, town clerk.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussions or questions? Sensing none, roll call.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Oh, Mayor Sakala. Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
Against.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
Against.
Counselor Zanoni.
4.
That's 8 in favor, 3 against.
Item 2G, resolution authorizing the town of Enfield acting through its town council to enter into an agreement with Gary Evans as acting town manager. Resolved that Gina Sakala, mayor of the town of Enfield, acting on behalf of the Enfield Town Council, is authorized to enter into and amend contractual instruments in the name and on behalf of the town of Enfield with Gary Evans as acting town manager pursuant to the Enfield Town Charter, Chapter 4, Section 2, subject to the review and approval of the Enfield Town Attorney. Date prepared 8/17/2026 by the town manager's office.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Go ahead, Counselor Hall.
Through the mayor to the town manager, Matt, do we have any numbers yet on what we will be compensating the temporary town manager?
Turn that over to the assistant town manager, Steve Belinda.
Yeah, this is very fresh, as we've been working on the draft since I came downstairs. The number we are at right now is $142 an hour, which is less than what we are paying Matt if you look at the total compensation package.
How much? I'm sorry.
$142 an hour.
$142 an hour.
Correct.
Okay, and this will be a regular 40-hour work week?
Up, as much as necessary, up to.
Up
yeah.
to 40.
Well, we can call him whenever. The way we are drafting this contract, he will be available as needed. Weekends, whatever. That was, I don't think you were there, but that was one of the things that we were discussing at when we had the interview. We wanted a flat rate, but we also wanted to make sure he was available if emergency arises, whatever, and he would be.
And he'll physically be here in the building, or?
Not all the time, but he will be available all the time.
Okay. And he'll be at meetings?
Yep, council meetings.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? None seen, none. Roll call, please.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
And Counselor Zanoni.
4.
It's 11 in favor, none against.
All right, item 2A1 has now become item H, 2H, and that is the resolution to approve the revised self-insurance funding policy as amended by the Town of Enfield and the Board of Education. This was the number 1 that we took off the consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby adopt the revised self-insurance funding policy between the Town of Enfield and the Board of Education as attached. Date prepared 8/17/2026 by Steve Belinda, Assistant Town Manager and Director of Human Resources.
So moved.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded. Discussion? Counselor Hall?
Just a quick comment in section 3 of what we have for the Joint Health Insurance Committee. The superintendent did make some adjustments on what was discussed at the insurance subcommittee meeting. And my only concern, and I really would like to add to that paragraph to include their 2% fund. So this talks about contributions to the reserves, if you will, of the insurance fund. And what we're going to see is deposits in that fund from both the Board of Ed and the Town Council to accumulate a 20% reserve in that account, and that is from our insurance consultant's recommendations. He actually recommended somewhere between 18 and 20%. So what this particular number 3 talks about is that the board will contribute as long as it doesn't lead to a negative budget for them, which I certainly understand that language entirely, and I understand why the superintendent put that in there. However, I just want a little bit more of a clarification on that section to include the 2% reserve. So I guess what I'm getting at is that as a town, I would look for contributions to the reserve account, to our insurance reserve account, not putting them in a negative budget situation, obviously, because the money has to come from the council, so it's going from one account to another. However, I do want that 2% account to be considered as part of their budget number. So I don't feel like that amount should be sitting there and not considered if we come to the point where their balance is zero at the end of the year, but there's still a reserve. I hope people followed that. I know it was a little convoluted, but so basically all I'd like to add to that section, and I would do it in the form of an amendment, is to just add to it to include the Board of Ed's 2% reserve account. So I need a second.
Oh, second.
I will second that.
Okay.
Did you get that, Sheila? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the amendment for Section 3 was made and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Deputy Mayor.
So I'm going to defer to the town manager in just a second, but fundamentally I want people to understand what we're trying to do here. We have a fund reserve that we use to pay insurance claims that historically has been tapped into for various reasons to pay for various things. And it puts our health insurance premiums in jeopardy when we don't have funds in reserve to make sure that we can pay claims. What we have been doing is we've been trying to rebuild the reserves so that there's no pressure on our excess policy insurance premiums if we don't have money to pay claims. And what the insurance committee did, and I think we did a really good job here, is we agreed that we would take monies that were allocated to employees for the purposes of benefits that were unused at the end of the year, and those appropriated funds would get rolled over into the reserve fund until such time as the fund reached the recommended 20%. We did not have a policy in place that required this council, the Board of Ed, to make those kinds of year-end transfers. And we all agreed that if these are appropriated funds and we have a deficit in the fund balance, the insurance reserve fund balance, that we wanted to create this policy so that future councils and future boards of ed do not tap into this insurance reserve fund without some public action. And so that's where this all came from. And I think this is very smart, sound fiscal policy that we all agreed to. The idea that we're now going to talk about the 2% reserve was not discussed and is not in the spirit of what we talked about. And this, I think, is just an attempt to tap into that 2% reserve. I'm going to suggest to people that they vote against this amendment, and I would like to ask the town manager for any clarification you feel you need to make.
Don't know if it's a clarification, but what I was going to say is that this originated through the joint health insurance with the Board of Education. I think if we're going to be making changes to that, rather than kind of put us in that situation where we have a council resolution that says this is what it's going to be, I would ask that if you're going to make a change of this, that maybe you table this and go back to them and have that conversation. Because again, I think, we have, they are the bigger part of the insurance fund. And what they do is going to have a tremendous impact on our ability going down the road, cost-wise. So we need them to be a partner in everything. And I think we've developed that partnership pretty well so far. And so if there is a desire to make a change to it, I would recommend that we send it back to talk about that change before you act on that change. If, again, there's no desire to do that, then ignore what I'm saying. But I think if you want to make a change, you should send it back to that committee to let them have that conversation first.
So can I just ask, I want to clarify. If we pass the amendment, you're suggesting we table this if it is amended and send it back to the Board of Ed?
Yeah.
This is what was agreed to in that meeting with the board. This, which is here, is what we agreed to, correct?
No, the
Yes.
changes were made after that meeting, John.
No.
These changes were made after the meeting.
So the language was written after the meeting, but this is the spirit of what was discussed in the meeting.
I think,
okay.
Yeah, the changes that the superintendent placed in here does make a change to what was discussed in the insurance committee meeting.
Yes.
Now,
it came after the meeting. It's highlighted.
When the insurance committee met to talk about it, we had the conversation regarding both sides putting in the extra money at the end of the year. What happened after that? Because at that time, I think the school superintendent at that meeting said, this isn't the amount we're thinking we're going to be putting in. After that, they had the issue with the City of Hartford schools that made I don't want to speak for him, but made the superintendent a little bit concerned about his ability to live up to that statement that he made. And I know he and I had that conversation that maybe we need to put something in there in case you have these type of situations that could be, cause a negative because, they don't want to get into the situation they had before. Leadership, so we have a regular monthly leadership meeting. We had this conversation about this language. And that's where both sides said, yep, we're, now it happens that leadership happens to be pretty similar to the insurance committee representation as well. So I think there was that conversation, there was an agreement from the Board of Education and leadership of council that was at that meeting that language is good. But I don't think the insurance committee had that conversation. And so that's what I'm saying is.
And
if you're
I wasn't there either, Matt. I was not at that leadership meeting.
Wait, we just want to.
So to be clear, the correction that he's making relates to an unforeseen circumstance where they would be in a negative, which wasn't contemplated in the meeting. However, it's a sound fiscal exception in the event that that particular circumstance were to manifest itself differently, then obviously you wouldn't want them to be making a fund transfer on insurance money when they have other obligations that they have to meet, which would put them in a negative balance. Right. That is a completely reasonable and in the spirit of what we discussed.
Yeah, I don't, again, I think there was a change, and it was consistent with what the insurance committee had talked about. But it's a change, and now what's being proposed here is again, I think even a furtherance of that change, and so if you're going to be doing that, I think it's just before you put a gun to someone's head, you should at least talk to them about that, and maybe there's a way that you can work that out so you don't have to feel that, the other side has to feel that you're, doing that. And in the end, this is something that we should be working together with them because, like I said, they are the biggest part of our insurance fund. Them not wanting to do the right things at all times with us and for us, creates issues. And I think we've over the last few years developed a pretty good relationship with getting them to want to see it as we see, how that fund should be operated. And again, this originated, should I say, by the superintendent saying, hey, I want to do this, because we had a number of insurance meetings, staff to staff, that shows that we weren't doing the things that we should be doing to make sure that we can maintain a self-insurance fund the proper way. And a self-insurance fund saves us money.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment only? Counselor Pisner, go ahead. I see your hand.
Okay, thank you. So again, as Matt just said, I mean, the BOE shares the largest portion of our insurance. So I don't see any harm in adding that we include the 2% reserve just in case. I don't see any harm with that. And if it needs to go back to the insurance committee, that's fine. But I think as it reads, it should be added in. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment only? Counselor Zanoni.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think there's a few things to think about here. So first, in regards to the overall insurance plan, I think there's an importance to the passage of this policy that it has bipartisan support. And it was my understanding when it came before that it did. When I'm reading the language, if it's my understanding that the language was changed before the council had the opportunity, or the committee had the opportunity to review that, and there's some hesitation, I would have no hesitation with tabling it so we can have further discussion on it. I think when it results into a negative overall budget balance, I think that language is a little ambiguous in some essence, because I hear the word overall, I think, is their balance including their 2%? Does it not? So I think I understand the intention of the superintendent here, but I recognize that the language as written could potentially bring forth some additional concerns. When it comes to prioritization of what their needs are, if they have a negative balance, I think their insurance contribution would count just as much as any other expenditure. It's a commitment they make, especially to staff, which is incredibly important. So in terms of prioritization, I don't necessarily think the Board of Ed should prioritize it any less than any other item on their agenda. So that's my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment only? Counselor Mangini.
I will not be supporting this amendment. I have to agree wholeheartedly with Deputy Mayor Santinella, specifically the fact that we have never had a policy in the insurance committee. I know I served on that committee several times, and I truly believe that this direction that we're going is not only positive, but also beneficial. And I truly believe that if we're going to start changing language, I have to agree with our town manager, we need to bring it back and at least present the courtesy to the Board of Ed, to the superintendent, as to what changes, if any, to the language should be made. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Hall, did you have your hand up
Yeah.
on the amendment?
Yeah. So I would have absolutely no problem withdrawing my amendment if we want to send this back to the insurance committee to discuss. I have absolutely no problem doing that. I think it's a simple change that we're looking to discuss. And this language that came in after the insurance meeting, which I was at, I think definitely needs clarification. And I would be happy to withdraw my amendment and send it back, and we can discuss it at the next insurance meeting, if everybody's okay with that. And I agree with everything Deputy Mayor Santinella said at the beginning. I think the goals here on this policy are great, and I think most of it is a really good policy, and we've discussed it in the insurance subcommittee level. So I don't disagree with his summarization up front on what we were trying to achieve with this. I think he's 100% on the money. I'm just requesting a simple clarification on number 3. And for all I know, the superintendent may be good with that. I have no idea. So I'll leave it to you. I can withdraw it and we can table it to the next meeting.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Okay. So you're going to have to make the decision on if you want to withdraw your amendment or not,
So
honestly.
let me do this. Let me withdraw my amendment, and I'll make another amendment to send this back to the insurance subcommittee to discuss item 3 with the superintendent and have a
So that's,
subcommittee.
all right. So you mean you're doing a motion to table, that not an
A motion to
amendment?
table would overrides any pending amendment.
Yep.
So if there was a motion to table, it's not debatable, it's a vote. And if it gets voted to table, it overrides the main motion and the amendment and gets tabled.
Right. So what you're doing is you're withdrawing your amendment, and
yep.
now you're making a motion to table,
And
right?
send back to the insurance
Okay.
committee.
So the amendment is withdrawn and the motion to table is made. Is there a second to table? All right, so the motion is made and seconded to be tabled. Do we have to have discussion on that motion, or is it just?
There is no discussion for a motion to
Thank you,
table.
and I think you told me that before, too. I apologize. All right, all in favor of tabling item 2A1, which is now 2H? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in favor. Maya, are you up or down?
I'm down.
Down. 5 in favor, all against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against. So the motion to table fails. Any further discussion on the motion? Did you want to put that amendment back up?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So any discussion on 2A1, which is now item 2H?
No.
Sensing none. Roll call, please.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
Against.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Santana.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
Against.
And Counselor Zanoni.
4.
That's 8 in favor, 3 against.
Thank you. Now turning to item 2A2, which is now item 2I. Resolution referring the proposed acquisition of 60 Long Hollow Road to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Now therefore be it resolved that the proposed purchase of 60 Long Hollow Road was referred to Planning and Zoning Commission in conformance with the requirements of Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-24, date prepared 8/17/2026 by the Town Manager's Office.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. This is the other item. This was item number 2 on the consent agenda. That is now item 2I. Any discussion? Counselor Hall.
Just a couple of quick comments for people that are watching at home. This particular parcel of land that we are discussing tonight to send to P&Z is a continuous piece of property, and you can actually look at it on the agenda. There's a nice little map there that would connect with the Scantic Park. And we're looking to acquire this to expand the Scantic Park, and this is being done with conservation funds. So in the conservation funds right now, we have approximately $659,000. This parcel has been on the Conservation Commission's radar for a very long time, and it's come up just recently, and it's just going to add quite a bit more property to actually the Scantic Park. I know our town manager is actually trying to work with the state DEP to actually get some additional funds for that purchase. Hopefully, we can replenish the conservation's funds after the fact, but the money is there to purchase this property with no budget impact to the taxpayer. So I think it's important just to put all that information out there, and this is kind of exciting that over the course of the last, I think, better part of a quarter century, this council has had the opportunity to vote on many parcels along the Scantic that we've had the opportunity to add to the park, which is a great opportunity. And previous councils, I think Cindy was there when we've done it in the past, buying parcels along the Scantic to expand. So this is another addition, and it's a really exciting addition, I think, and I'm certainly excited to see it go to planning and zoning tonight. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, so the vote is on the referral to P&Z. All right, sensing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Legro?
4.
Mayor Sakala?
4.
Councilor Crissati?
4.
Councilor Hall?
4.
Councilor Mangini?
4.
Councilor Matthews?
4.
Councilor Pisner?
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella?
4.
Councilor Thomas?
4.
Councilor Ungary?
4.
And Councilor Zanoni?
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Item 2A5 on the consent agenda was also removed. It is now item 2J. And it is the resolution authorizing the town manager, acting town manager, or designee to sign documents related to the disbursement of funds from the Antonio Ganuscio Trust to the town of Enfield. Be it resolved that the town manager, acting town manager, or designee is authorized to sign on behalf of the town of Enfield the receipt, release, refunding, and indemnification agreement and any other documents as may be required to receive the distribution of the trust funds. Date prepared 8/14/2026 by the town attorney's office.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Counselor Hall.
Just a quick comment, and then Marie can go. We in the past, we've made a point of discussing these very generous donations that people have left to the town in various aspects of the process. We get donations all the time, whether it be through EMS or the police or wherever, but this happened to be an estate that was kind enough to leave money to the town. And this money that this family did leave is designated specifically to be used for the undersupported and underprivileged folks of the town. So it was a very generous donation, and we appreciate all donations, and I think it's important to at least acknowledge the family and thank them for this generous share. So.
Councilor Pisner, the deputy mayor, the mayor had to step out, so did you have your
That's
hand up?
fine. No, I just wanted to say, I mean, I knew the Ganuscio family growing up. He actually ran that little bank that was on the corner of Asnuntuck and Main Street there. And he was a good friend of my grandmother's, but they were a longstanding family in town. And this just shows the good roots that they had and how much they cared about Enfield, that they would leave the town something in their estate. So I did feel very strongly that we needed to bring this up and let people know, and just say thank you publicly for remembering the town that they came to. So that's it. Thank you.
Allegro.
Councilor Prisner, I also grew up in the 1950s down in Thompsonville, and Antonio Ganuscio was a household name. He was living the American dream. He became a successful businessman, and he opened the first national bank of Thompsonville. And because of that, many of our residents down in Thompsonville also achieved their dream of owning a home and starting businesses of their own. Antonio Ganuscio passed away more than 40 years ago. And he has gone for so long, but his generous spirit lives on. And I just, it's emotional because for those of us who grew up in Thompsonville, we know what a wonderful man he was. So thank you, Marie.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Allegro?
4.
Mayor Sakala?
4.
Counselor Crissati?
4.
Counselor Hall?
4.
Counselor Mangini?
4.
Counselor Matthews? 4. Counselor Pisner?
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella?
4.
Counselor Thomas?
4.
Counselor Ungary?
4.
And Counselor Zanoni?
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? 11 in favor, none against. This meeting is adjourned. Back here.